Well, first I want to thank Senator Schumer. I say this gently. Chuck never makes the same mistake twice. Generally, he makes it 5 or 6 times just to make sure he got it right.
Republicans having some fun there with Democratic Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer today after he pledged to cross the aisle and vote for their spending plan. The move reduces the chances of a government shutdown that was set to go into effect at midnight tonight, but it's a major reversal from Schumer's position just a few days ago, and it's sparking outrage within the Democratic Party. Joining us to discuss this and more, Mychael Schnell, congressional reporter here at The Hill. Mychael, Schumer on Wednesday said Republicans don't have the votes to pass their plan. He was pushing for this 30-day CR. Then he reversed his course. Let's take a listen to Schumer today on the Senate floor.
A shutdown will allow DOGE to shift into overdrive. It would give Donald Trump and DOGE the keys to the city, state, and country. Donald Trump and Elon Musk would be free to destroy vital government services at a much faster rate than they can right now, and over a much broader field of destruction that they would render.
You know, it strikes me that according to Democrats, all those points were true on Wednesday. Why did Schumer change his mind, and does he have other Democrats that are going to walk the plank with him?
I mean, I don't know if I would go as far as say he changed his mind. Democrats have been ruminating on this all week. They had three lunches, very tense conversations among the caucus when they were weighing this decision of, do we play hardball and not support this legislation but risk going into a shutdown that they could bear the blame for, or do they support this partisan funding bill even though they're not in support of many of the provisions in there? So Democrats have been wrestling with that decision and that question for days. So I think that when Schumer came out and said they don't have the votes right now, that was sort of an indication of, well, at this moment there are not enough yes-nos. It seems as though that after he ruminated on it more and spoke to more of his colleagues, he decided to come to this place. So now where we stand is there are 2 Democrats who are definitely yes on this procedural vote to advance the CR. John Fetterman and Chuck Schumer. Now, there needs to be 8. Of course, Republicans have 53 seats in the Senate, but Rand Paul has said he's not going to support this bill, so that means that that means Republicans are only going to have 52 and they need 8 of these votes. So the big question is, who are those other 6 who are going to fill this void and support it? That's the open question right now. And throughout today and throughout yesterday, a number of those Democrats who are expected to be some of the most probable to support this procedural vote have come out against it. For example, one of them, Jon Ossoff, he's a Democrat from Georgia, perhaps one of the most vulnerable Senate Democrats up for re-election. He said he's not going to support the cloture vote. That is significant. So while there's still definitely a possibility that the shutdown could be averted, the number of lawmakers who could support that effort seems to be dwindling.
Yeah, and Schumer pledging that he was going to support the Republican plan has really enraged some Democrats, many in the activist community. Let's take a listen to AOC.
I think there is a deep sense of outrage and betrayal. And this is not just about progressive Democrats. This is across the board, the entire party. I think it is a huge slap in the face.
I understand being upset over what they might perceive as shifting positions from Schumer, but I'm struggling to understand what AOC and the other Democrats in her camp actually want. Do they think that shutting down the government is a political winner?
I don't think so. I think that they wanted to show some fight and have some hardball be played. Look, right now, the Democratic Party is not in a great place. Folks are still picking up the pieces, doing the postmortem of what went wrong in November, and trying to figure out how they're going to combat the second Trump administration. They're trying to find out the message and also the messenger, who's going to be the leader of the party. So in this leadership void, I think a lot of folks are wanting to play hardball and go strongly against the Trump administration. We know Democrats are outraged about a lot of the moves that the White House has made in its beginning weeks in office. So I think somebody like AOC, she wants to see them play hardball. She wants to see them hold the line and demand a vote on this 30-day continuing resolution, clean continuing resolution that would allow more time for some of these bipartisan negotiations to take place instead of just swallowing this partisan funding bill. And also another thing, this is sort of the last moment of leverage that Democrats have for the foreseeable future. They could have some leverage when it comes to the debt limit, though Republicans right now are hoping to do that through reconciliation, which wouldn't require any Democratic support. So this is the last time that Democrats can go to the table and say, you need us, we want X, Y, and Z. It seems as though Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and others are hoping that Schumer would play hardball in this situation, but clearly the Senate Democratic leader has decided that the negatives that come with playing hardball outweigh the negatives. The negatives of a shutdown outweigh the positives of playing hardball.
Seems like the root of all this is that the Democrats took a gamble and they lost. They bet that the House Republicans weren't going to be able to pass their CR because conservatives that haven't supported a CR in the past would continue to do so. But once they folded, Democrats were kind of left without a leg to stand on.
Yeah, that's right. Look, it was stunning that Mike Johnson was able to get this continuing resolution over the finish line. Conservatives are never in support of continuing resolutions. They abhor them. But with Mike Johnson making some changes to the continuing resolution, for example, cutting $13 billion in non-defense spending programs, and also plussing up defense funding for some of those defense hawks, and most importantly, perhaps, getting the support of Donald Trump and getting Donald Trump to help with that final lobbying in support of the legislation, he was able to get it through his conference despite the razor-thin majority, which a lot of people were doubtful of. And because of that, Mike Johnson passed the bill, sent his members home, trying to jam Schumer in the Senate, and now we're seeing that process play out right now.
Yeah, that Trump support, a huge security blanket for right. Speaker Johnson. You know, we mentioned earlier that this continuing resolution, I guess we didn't mention it, we should mention, the continuing resolution continues spending levels from the Biden administration mostly, but there are some changes, as you just mentioned. What should we know about what is getting more funding, what's getting less funding, and is my trash going to still get picked up in D.C.?
The two biggest things to know is that it boosts defense funding by $6 billion and decreases non-defense spending programs by $13 billion. There's a lot of also contention over some language that has to do with Washington, D.C. and the funding that D.C. has, and a number of other provisions throughout. So that's really what the biggest concern that Democrats have, is that this is not a clean continuing resolution, they argue, as Republicans have said, because of these funding shortfalls, and that's what's making them most concerned.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Mychael Schnell, thanks so much.
Thanks, Drew.
The Department of Education Friday announcing it is investigating more than 50 colleges and universities over so-called race-based preferences in admissions and scholarships. The list of schools include Ohio State, Duke, and Yale. The move is the latest in the Trump administration's war on diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. The news comes as Columbia University says it has expelled or suspended some students who took over a campus building last spring as part of pro-Palestine protests. The school also temporarily revoking some degrees. The university says its judicial board has issued sanctions against a dozen students who occupied Hamilton Hall. A campus-wide email sent Thursday says these actions are based on its evaluation of the severity of behaviors. Columbia has not provided a breakdown of how many students were suspended, expelled, or had their degrees revoked. Voters rating President Trump's performance halfway into his first 100 days as the honeymoon fades and the economy becomes his key vulnerability. In today's Political Minute, News Nation Washington Bureau Chief Mike Vaquera breaks down how the president is faring with a key voting group on some of the top issues.
A warning sign for President Trump from the country's single biggest voting bloc. I'm Mike Vaquera, News Nation Washington Bureau Chief. A new poll from Emerson College suggests that independents are having mixed reactions to the president's performance on the top issues. Approval ratings have dipped slightly, and much of that dip comes from the key kitchen table issue of the economy. More independents think Trump's policies are making things worse than better, 32% to 23%. Half are neutral or think it's too soon to tell. Predictably, more Democrats think his policies are making the economy worse. More Republicans think they're making it better. But on immigration, more independents approve of than don't, 35% to 30%. 44% don't have an opinion. And again, more Democrats disapprove of his handling of the issue. More Republicans approve. I'm Mike Vaquera, and this is the News Nation Political Minute.
And you can find more news and analysis from Mike and our colleagues 24/7 on News Nation. To find News Nation on your screen, go to joinnn.com. That's today's Daily Debrief. I'm Drew Petrimoulx. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Hills YouTube channel. And come back here soon for the intersection between politics and policy.